Good evening. Welcome to the May 12th, 2022 Finance and Facility Committee meeting of the School District of Haverford Township. Let's rise for the Pledge to Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's nice that we know where the flag is this year.
Right. They tricked us. We have 3 agenda items tonight, and Ms. Martha Q, our business director, will run us through them.
We're going to start this evening with our construction updates by Ken Matthews from CBD Development.
All right. Good evening, everyone. All right. So, this is the typical spreadsheet, just kind of updating where we are as far as costs and overall budget, pay apps, et cetera. Linwood, there's really essentially no change since last month. We're just kind of waiting for some last things to wrap up. Contractor has been on site, the general contractor, over the last week, cleaning up, ripping some of the silt fence out. I don't know if you've noticed it, if you've been over there, getting the last of the seed in, trying to get all these little punch list items finished up. So they should be done in the next few days, next week, with those items. So that really takes care of it as far as Linwood is concerned. Any questions on Linwood?
Do we know when the retaining wall fencing will be?
We're still waiting on delivery dates, which has just been honestly painful, trying to get out of everyone. The sign, the retaining wall, they process the shop drawings to fabricate, but we're just not getting answers from the fabricator. So hopefully I'll have a much better update for the next meeting. Okay. Similar fashion, high school phase 1 is pretty much wrapped up. There was a little bit of site work left to clean up and finish. We have Pinoni coming out to do the final inspections that the township have to do, just to make sure they don't have any last punch list items themselves. So the contractor was out on site 2 or 3 weeks ago, cleaning up, seeding, getting those items done. They had a few inlets that they had to finish putting together. So all that work is pretty much done. There's no change orders left. All the allowances have been depleted, and the contingency balance stays the same at the $63,000 that's there. So there's nothing left other than just kind of closing out from the paperwork side. And Stubner's owed, we're holding a little bit of money till everything's completed and we're sure it's done and there's no further punch list items. But the other 3 prime contractors have been paid in full. Any questions on phase 1? All right. So phase 2. It's phase 2, right? I'm sorry, I can't see that from here.
Yep.
So from a financial standpoint, they still have a little over 60% to bill on the project. So now the invoices will really ramp up now as they finish up the addition and then jump into the renovation work on the inside. We've been able to work it out with JR and Pete Donaghy. We're going to get in a little earlier than anticipated just to get a couple extra weeks. So we're working on that. One of the items is we met today with the movers. So they've submitted a proposal. It's kind of a T&M proposal, not to exceed. We figured on 8 man days between moving out and then we're going to have to move everything back in. It's roughly $30,000. So we'll present that at the next board meeting for approval. I don't think we're going to need all those days, but we wanted a few extra just depending because there's a lot of stuff to move. So, between how much help the teachers need and whatnot, we'll use that time up. So a contingency balance from the last time has been lowered significantly, but that's because, as we discussed, there were some additional HVAC items and some other items at the high school that were HVAC related that were approved at the last board meeting. That was about a little over $90,000. And then we may as well talk about them now. We have another group of change orders for the high school that will be presented next week. and I'll run through them here quickly. And some of them do include some bigger ticket items that we talked about at the last facility meeting, updating some equipment at the high school. So we'll start with let's start with the big ones. So two big ones. So for Westcott, the electrician, there was the fiber optics upgrade throughout the building that was needed. So that change is $48,187. There's a little bit more scope that needs to be added, but this is a time-sensitive one because getting the material, the cable is a little bit of a long lead time, so we want to make sure that gets released now and get that on order for the summer. And then in addition to that, the Intellicom front-end system, which is the PA system for the building, is, again, 25-plus years old, well past its computer lifespan, so to speak. So that changes for $42,561. So those are the two for Westcott, and then we have another handful for Conrad. There was some minor terrazzo repair work at the existing auditorium entrance for $2,900. There was a credit back for some steel work that wasn't needed anymore based on the existing conditions for $3,800. The green room modifications for Conrad was only a little over $1,000. So that all the pluses and minuses, Martha, kind of fell in where we thought it would. We need to add a sound alarm kit to the exterior doors for $1,200. That was not in the specifications, and it should have been. There was some additional concrete work for the chiller pad for $13,644. That was not on the drawings. That should have been. There was a change. This is kind of a little bit of an anomaly. The architect draws the exterior steel studs, but the contractor, it's what's called a delegated engineering design. So all the design details aren't flushed out in the bid drawings. So when they did the actual design drawings, there was some additional, the steel increased in size, so it's an additional cost. It's typical how the way exterior steel studs are designed. The architect's engineer does not do the actual design. So that was a change for $5,900. And then lastly, if you all recall, back in November, we had to do a $41,000 change order to change what roof system we're using because the material was not available. Well, apparently things changed, and in March we got a call from the contractor that said, well, now that material is available, but the material in the change order is no longer available. So I don't know what this ping pong is going on here, but anyway, so we're getting a significant credit back. We're not getting the entire credit back because Carlisle's cost increased, of course, in 2022. So we're getting $29,000 back out of the 41. So it's still a win getting it back. We went through it all, and it seemed fair and reasonable. So,
Get a roof on time.
and we get it is the better roof. Because you had to do a fireboard. I won't bore you with the details. It's the better roof. So those are the change orders for the high school. If anybody had any questions about any of them.
And those are already reflected in the pending change orders?
That's already, yes. Anything that we'll present to you all is already in the budgeted numbers, along with anything else we think is projected or, any holds for issues that we know of are in the budget already. So, yeah, so that's why the phase 2 contingency, has been reduced quite a bit down to the $67,000 because of those additional items that were a little bit more significant costs.
I was over behind the high school the other night and saw that the windows were in.
Windows just got put in, so we're basically just about 100% watertight. They've been drywalling, so everything's right on schedule so far. So really, in the next 6 weeks, the addition itself will have significant change on the inside, getting paint on ceilings, et cetera. And then come June 6th, they're going to start the demolition of all the space behind the auditorium, the existing fitness center. We were talking about the movers, JR's folks are going to help out. High school football team's moving, the weight room out, which should be pretty soon. So.
One of their weightlifting activities.
One of their weightlifting activities.
That's their
Yes.
workouts. There you go.
Yeah, it's quite a bit to move, so that's great.
Curiosity, what's the is green roof green yet, or do we not know?
They haven't gotten to that point yet.
Okay.
The other one is fine, but
Yeah.
they got to finish all the detail. Oh, they got to do all the detailing first.
I was curious. Yeah, okay.
So that shouldn't be too long, in all honesty, because it goes on the sloped roofs
Right.
that are there, and they're just those plastic pans with the
In there.
greenery in it. So that shouldn't be too long. Just have to finish up all the edging and the metal trim work first. But yeah, that's it as far as phase 2.
Ken, for the fiber optics and the PA system, I'm assuming that's throughout the school?
So, well, the PA system is the front end equipment
Oh,
that
okay.
runs the
Okay.
whole system.
Okay.
So the network of the system is
It's
okay.
already said, okay.
The fiber optics goes, yes, so the little closets that all the network equipment is, the high school has, oh my gosh, I don't know, 14, 15 rooms of it. So this is that home run cable between every single one of those rooms
Okay.
to make, mesh the entire network.
Is that a summer project? Or does
That's
that
a summer-only
come- okay.
project,
That's all
yes.
I wanted to know. Cool, thanks.
Yeah, they won't be able to because they got to run through the whole school, so they
Yeah,
won't be able
that's
to
kind of
do
what I was
much
wondering if that was gonna be
until the kid,
disruptive at all, but
yeah,
okay,
until the
perfect.
kids are out.
Good.
Okay. Chatham Park, really not too much has changed here. They're still, they started billing a little bit. They have been doing a little bit of work on second shift. They were in for a week. They've been out for a week or two. They're coming back again next week, second shift. They poured the chiller pad today, actually, this morning. So that little site work will get wrapped up. And then they'll actively get moving in the boiler room, start ripping everything out, and get that work started. And then come the end of school, get into the building and start doing all that work. There is a few other pieces of equipment that have been pushed out. We've been told, and these are some of the fan coil units that sit in the corner of the classroom, the new ones. It's looking like the end of August, but we don't know yet, but wanted to at least make you aware of some supply chain concerns. Of course, at the time when they were released, they were 12 weeks. Now all of a sudden they're 20 weeks, like that. So it just, we'll react to it and deal with it, and come up with a plan depending on when we confirm the delivery date, but we don't think it's going to be an issue. And it's the same for Coopertown. Again, so as far as financially, they've hardly billed anything. Balance of contingency is sitting at $278,000, and just a little bit of the $85,000 allowance has been spent on fencing. But other than that, everything, is moving along on schedule. I think the boilers are actually in hand already, so that's a good sign. There we go. All right, then as far as Coopertown, again, same thing. Very little has been billed to date. Contingency balance is sitting at $289,000 of the $300,000. The same fan coil units that may be late in August are the same issue here because they're all supplied from the same company, Johnson Controls. So the other thing I forgot to mention, just a reminder that the chiller will not be delivered until most likely around Thanksgiving time. But again, they've started working there. They've gotten a bunch of pipe in through the hallways. They've been working second shift, and that work will continue. And then they're starting on that chiller pad next week. So that will be completed within a week. So things are moving along well. As far as roofing, we're actually got confirmation. I believe may have already received some of the roofing material for the roof project, going over the metal panel roofs. So everything is in line for them to get started in after school starts, beginning of July. And they've only had one minor bill so far. So that is it as far as Coopertown. Any questions on anything at all?
Was there any other change orders that are on next week's agenda beyond the high school?
No. It could be Chatham Park and Coopertown had a couple stragglers at the last meeting, so it's just the high school. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Up next is JR with his busy summer coming up. What he's presenting is the results of the RFP for both our concrete and our M&T building paving issues. I will say when we get to M&T, JR and I added 2 things to the proposal because we were trying to anticipate if there is issues so that you'd be prepared.
Okay.
I'm just going to interject again for the public's benefit. M&T is our maintenance and transportation facility that,
Yes.
not a local bank.
Yes, it's not a local
That
bank.
is true.
Yes. Well, thank you. Our concrete bid went out. It came back with some good pricing. Premier Concrete got the contract for the concrete for the district for this year. We got some very good competitive pricing from them. Pretty much it barely went up from the last time they won it the time before. So we'll start meeting with them after and start planning what sidewalks and aprons and concrete work we're going to be doing around the district. The paving results, Duraco Construction came in at $538,810 for just the paving part of the M&T building or transportation building, which came in really good. The electrical came in right around $350. AJM Electrical came in with that. And the fencing we went through Triborough, which was a CoStar vendor, at $110,951, which made life a lot easier going that way. So going through the total cost, you got $538 for pavement, $350 for the electrical, $106 for the fencing, $17,500 for the design work for the electrical. I put the design work for the pavement. And then what Martha was talking about, I wanted to put a $50,000 contingency in there because we do not know what we're going to open up with the parking lot. Just to be on the safe side, I would hate to come back and say, oops. So at least we can have it. If we do find trouble, surely tell the board. And then we're also looking to be a little proactive is the transportation has a sea container, metal storage container on the side of the building that's probably 25 years old. So it's time to go. So for $20,000, I was talking to Martha, we could $10,000 to put in a pad, and then for $10,000 basically get like a nice, 20 by 12, 20 by 20 or 30 by 10 shed. And we'll, instead of paving it, we'll just do some concrete work there, get it nice and level, run electric in there for them because it'll be right on the side of the building. I don't know if you remember seeing it on the side of the mechanics garage, which then brings us a total to $1.1 million. When I first came to you guys months ago for the proposal, we went anywhere from 1.1 to I think it was 1.4. So I'm real happy with the pricing. I think it came out well. Which is good. They're going out so late. So for a total price of $1.1 million, we could have that parking lot with all the electric, the generator, and of course, the generator's 52 weeks from the time we give out the contract. So just got to put it out there. So I think that's it on that. A quick one. Sorry.
Will enable the propane expansion.
Yes, that's what I was going to go next. The propane, the RFP is getting advertised tomorrow. So I think the dates, then we got to go 3 weeks, and I think I have it for the June 9th, or I think it's June 9th facilities. I think that's what it is, if I recall. I think it's June 9th.
June 9th is graduation.
Or June 6th. It's one of them.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I honestly don't know what.
was it the 6th? So hopefully we'll get some good numbers with that.
Graduation, yep, that looks
Yeah,
right.
June
so-
9th is graduation, so it must be a different night.
It must be the 6th. So we're going with an 18,000, what I put in the RFP is for an 18,000 gallon tank. Instead, I think Kevin has I think it's a 4 or 5,000, which then will get us better pricing on the propane because then a tanker could come in and fill up. Right now we have the smaller trucks that come in and fill up and we pay more money for the propane. And we also have the propane in for the bid. So that we'll get the bid pricing and we're doing a 3-year lock-in price on the propane. So for 3 years, we'll know our pricing on the propane, and also a service contract involved with the propane station. So like I said, that goes out tomorrow. I also, hopefully by next week, we're putting out an RFP to replace the 25-year-old dishwasher at the high school. And we're also putting alternates in for a dishwasher at Coopertown and Chatham Park, which don't have dishwashers now. So we're going to put that all together. I'm hoping to have that advertised. I'm hoping to have it done next week so we can start advertising Friday and hopefully make the June 6th date to come back with that. We'll see. That's going to be a tight one. And then we're also, I didn't work on, I'll get to that one next. We're also going to do an RFP on kitchen service for the kitchen equipment getting serviced. Like when their steamers go down, when their steam tables go down, their ovens go down, go out with an RFP to get better pricing. So we have one contractor who can give us a good price, and he'll come in and, fix everything. Right now, we're doing an inventory of the kitchens to get that all together. And as soon as I get the dishwasher one done, I'll hit on the service one and hopefully we can get that one. That one, I'll tell you right now, I'm not making June 6th. But hopefully we'll have that set in place for the September school year. So that's pretty much it. Any questions?
I was just going to say a good catch on adding the contingency. I think that's a smart move. And I know in my work with construction financing, 10% contingency, especially on renovations, is prudent. So, especially with pavement being the one that's got the unknowns about what's under there.
Yep.
The 50,000 seems like a good number to plug in as a just in case.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't have to use it, but it'll be there just in case.
Do you have a site plan for the facility or not?
A site plan for the M&T?
Yeah, just curious. I think figures maps. I think we have one.
I
done
can
yet, or
look
it's-
and see if there is one. I don't have one, in my office.
Okay.
And then on your green roof at the high school, hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have a drone shot of it.
Because
Martha's
the
been,
kids from the last meeting to go up and do the drone.
About to
Yeah.
say, we had.
oh, did you have it done already?
No.
Oh, no? Well, I'll have my guy go out there and drone it next week.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for it to get green. That's all.
That's which is what you figure. You don't see
Should be
brown
green
roof.
by now,
Yeah.
I would think. So that's pretty much it. It's going to be a busy school year. All our projects, we've cut the POs out early to get them everything ordered because like what Ken's going through, 12, 14, 16, 20 weeks to get everything. So Martha was great. She got all my POs cut out early. So we got everybody ordered. So all the parts.
Also, just one question: do you have, or will you have at some point in once you get the concrete? We have an inventory of what sidewalks and aprons.
Yeah,
and
as
stuff
soon
like
as,
that?
as soon as it's approved, I'll meet with the contractor, not next week, the week after, and then we'll go around and start laying out what needs to be replaced and added. That it? There you go. That was quick. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last item that we have on the agenda, it has to do with the 2020-2021 food service procurement review that was done by the state. And actually, JR going out for RFP for the repair of the food service equipment is actually an outgrowth in part of this procurement review. To give you a little background, the state does periodically do what they call a procurement review. Quite honestly, it's an audit, but we're not allowed to call it that. For 2020, 2021, it was an unusual year in food service, to say the least. The year started as self-op. You had a contractor as the director because your director had retired or left the district. And then in February of that year, Chartwell started as our food service management company. In addition to that, your business manager and assistant business manager changed in July. So there was an awful lot of changes, and that made, what I'll say is the records were kind of sketchy for 2021. Then you also have the COVID effect, where normal procedural things were interrupted by the effect of COVID. So that's the year they decided to come and look at. And it was like, if you could have chosen a year, could you have chosen a worse one? So as a result, we ended up with 2 corrective actions and a handful of technical assistance. A corrective action is something that we need to officially respond to the state on, saying, here's how we're going to fix it. Technical assistance is they're in essence giving us advice on how to do things better. In the 2 corrective actions, the first one was called invoice oversight, that the invoices for the food service management company weren't being in-depth looked over, and as a result, there wasn't, from their point of view, sufficient oversight. Now, the other side of this is obviously the February to March invoice or the March to April invoice. The people who oversaw it no longer worked for the district. So there wasn't anybody to say, here's what we looked at, here's what we did. So that they took that as there wasn't sufficient oversight. Because obviously your new business manager and your new assistant business manager couldn't say, well, we looked at them. We weren't here at the time when it was being paid. The second item had to do with the USDA commodity inventory. Every year, every month, the district receives goods from the USDA in a form of commodities, and those commodities are supposed to be tracked where you have so much, here's what you used in a given month, here's your inventory at the end of the month. That very clear paperwork wasn't done during the months from when the food service management company started till the end of June. So we had to go back and recreate that, and I created a spreadsheet where we tracked, here's what we got, here's what was used, here's the final inventories, and tied it out through the end of June and sent it into the state, and they were happy with what we sent them. It took us a while because we were reinventing the wheel, as it were, and the people that were working on it, none of us were here during those months that it was happening, but we managed to get it all worked out. Some of the other things that were interesting as part of the technical assistance, one of the items came through that you have heard many, many times, including today, where we get things through co-stars because it is a state bidding thing. USDA has made the decision that co-stars is not a viable bid source. In fact, they are viewing co-stars as a vendor. So if we want to get something from co-stars, we still need to go through either the other 2 vendors for quotes, or if it's a high enough price, you need to go out for bid for it, regardless of the fact that the vendor you're selecting from co-stars is viable. The interesting thing is that memo that told all districts in the state that co-stars is now one vendor went out just before COVID started. And so most people never saw it. In fact, I never saw the memo until they attached it as part of the technical assistance. So I literally received the memo that was issued in January of 2020 in October, November of this past year. So, and the reaction from when we spoke to the people in the procurement area was, yes, most people didn't get it. Well, okay, that doesn't help me in figuring out how to do it. Some of the other things that they were advising us on was our advisory board, where you're supposed to meet with the students, the faculty, about menu selections and things like that. You didn't have the advisory board meetings during the year 2020, 2021, and you should have had them. Well, we didn't have kids in the building, so it'd be kind of hard to hold them. Same thing with the on-site monitoring that's supposed to be done of how food service is being served. That on-site monitoring wasn't completed during the 2020, 2021 year. So again, you're required to do it. Okay.
I'm sorry, they didn't kind of take that into account that.
No, you were still required to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
It just kind of boggles the mind. So much was kind of altered during COVID. This particular process, though,
Was not.
wow, that's okay.
One of the other things that we didn't oversee the invoices enough. One of the items they pointed out was a $20.02 item that was reimbursing the food service management company for some stamps And because their invoice didn't specifically say that we will reimburse you for office supplies, for lack of a better description, they were pointing out that we weren't overseeing the invoices sufficiently. And I found it interesting. It was a $20.02 item. So we had to say that we were going to follow through on doing expense documentation and invoice validation as part of our response to the technical assistance. So all in all, given the year that they were examining, I don't think we did poorly. But it did make for an interesting few months while we were trying to pull everything together to satisfy their requests through the procurement review. But as a result of that, things like having to go out for an RFP for having our equipment serviced is actually part of this procurement requirement. So we will be doing that RFP every year going forward.
Okay. And CoStar's is not sufficient.
CoStars is not sufficient. If I want to do CoStars, I either have to get 3 separate quotes if it's small enough, below the threshold, or I can use CoStars as one bid response, but still have to go out to bid for the rest of it.
So CoStars, which is
State bid.
Yeah, that is they're viewing because CoStars, as I understand it, gives you the names of vendors.
Yes,
They're not viewing the fact that they give you names of a vendor with lowest price as a bid.
they are viewing the
They're viewing
label
as vendor.
CoStars as a vendor.
Okay.
And I literally spoke to the head of the procurement department in the state going, this doesn't make sense. And he said, I know it doesn't make sense, but you have to convince the USDA
Oh, it's you.
he is following the USDA orders. And he said, if you can find a way to do that, let me know. Because he actually used to work for the Department of Defense, the Federal Department of Defense, and he's not used to the kind of controls he's now suddenly working with. So he's like, please give me some advice.
USDA. Okay, so this was only on, as it says, the procurement processes and review, and it's not an audit, it's a review, but how frequently does that happen?
It's done every 3 to 4 years.
And then they pick a year sometime in the past?
Yes.
Okay. So not looking at food quality, the food service, the menus, the nutrition, any of that. It was just on the
Strictly on
ordering.
how things are bought for food service. And the interesting thing is what they're looking at is the food purchases under a food service management company. When they said that we needed the commodity inventory, it was just from the point where the food service management company started going forward through the end of the year. So that from July to the end of January, they didn't care. Because we were self-op during that period of time. From February to June is what they cared about and what we had to report on, which I found interesting because obviously if you had problems with your commodity inventory for the first several months of the year, that was not an issue.
Okay. And is this a process that Chartwell's is helpful in, or are they involved at all, or is it a check on?
Because it was their first year and they changed food service directors, everybody was kind of scrambling because it was an unusual year, to say the least. Them starting in February is an unusual way to start in a school district. Mm-hmm. We changed food service directors from February to when this review was being done. So a lot of scrambling to find backup and information and phone calls and, reaching out to Chartwell's vice presidents to, hey, the guy who is in charge of the actual purchasing, can you please provide us with this, and that. So it was an interesting adjustment for all of us.
Hopefully easier going forward. And it sounds like a consequence of this is a couple of writing back to confirm some of the corrective actions. And
we did write a letter back to them explaining what we will be doing. Well, first off, providing the spreadsheet where we tracked everything from February to the end of June. And then also saying, here's the people that will be responsible for tracking invoices. Here's the people that will be doing the on-site monitoring. Here's the people that will make sure the advisory board meets at least once a year. Sent them that letter. They sent back a response within the week saying, thank you.
okay, so
It's over. We're done.
closed.
Mm-hmm.
Closed and done. Well, thank you for digging through all of that. It sounds like a very thorough process.
And that was the last thing on my agenda.
All right.
So unless there's questions.
No? So then the next item on the agenda is public comment. Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.